Yo, what's good? It's your boy, Woodz. In this video, you guys, a new series called Clues of Kiflam. Now, the point of this specific series is to broaden our horizons, because Kiflam means all things, just like God. It is a euphemism of possibilities. Now, not to get too melodramatic with certain aspects of Kiflam, I want you to understand that Rockstar has given us clues, okay, in front of our eyes, but they are obscured by giving us a bunch of clues all at once. No different than the widespread aspect of the game and how it shows us so many suns, so many aspects of colors, so many pyramids, eyes, and so on. They all mean several different things, but all one thing. Now, before we move on, the point is to decipher how to manipulate these aspects of thought, and that is one way that I figured out a little aspect of Kiflam that I think they did not want us to know. And it will lead us in an order that will eventually take us to a 7-letter word. Now, I've mentioned 7 in previous videos before. It is a numerical aspect of divine, and the divine are gods and or extraterrestrial and spiritual beings. Now, if we are dealing with dualities, we need to understand that these are all in one, and also within a negative aspect of duality, they're nothing at all. But that is your level of natural thought to disbelieve or debunk, but not to understand someone of their opinion. Now, within my opinion, I believe I have started to crack down what Kiflam is really representing in this mystery, and it is a code. And how this code is going to be useful is to link us to other things. I don't want you to get too sidetracked with things that I've already found. I want us to stay on track, okay? And that is the point here, is the fact that I've given you clues right in front of your eyes, and only a few of you actually cared. Now, before we move on, I want to give a very, very special shout out to my boy, the Cake Nuke, because he was the only person who figured it out. Seriously, bro. You are a fucking true one for that. Seriously. I fuck with you. Seriously, man. That you're the shit for that. You know, he had me wondering if I was slipping on being cryptic here. But the fact is that several other people have given different answers, but there was a lot of you who didn't even try. And I think that that is the bigger clue of the mystery here, and how they developed the obscurity. They've developed so many things to blind us, because they're all one answer. And that's why we're so misled within disbelief. We find one thing, and then another thing can disprove this one thing, but that's only because you are not thinking about all possibilities. Now, the first thing, a language. one thing that was very interesting about kiflam is it sounds a little bit like, you know, Islam and other things, Christ. You know, it sounds like a combination, right? Now, I feel as though they are hinting towards certain aspects of belief here, but if it's one thing that I made note in this mystery is that webs and the aspects of a spider and other things that simulate a web in this mystery, even Herbalist has brought up a few things in his video about wallpapers and Rockstar's choice of using spiders as a symbolism. Now, I believe this web was always to represent the actual web. Now, before you get on me for using Google and searching the fucking web, we need to understand something about the web. It is one of the greatest creations among men since the creation of man. It is quite possibly one of our biggest leaps in evolution to actually tie all answers within a central state of all opinions given, but only the majority rule. And that is to go within duality of the masses and how the Antichrist works, but also how religion works. What we're going to do here is something very simple. And this was the point why they have us bring up our phones in game, and why it's a big point to go on the internet and so on and so forth. But we need to understand things, not just take them as bullshit. Think deeper. We're just going to translate kiflam. But I want you to understand something about kiflam. It comes out the same, okay, when you detect the language. But as you see, the language detected is Maltese. And this struck me as very interesting. Now, I had a choice, you guys, a choice to say, well, this is bullshit, or I could have kept going to understand an understanding, and that is a dog. Now, I want you guys to understand something about these peyote plants, okay? They are put in this fucking game, okay, to not only reference aspects of shamanism, because Indians and Native Americans, okay, were known for using hallucinogenic plants to alter their minds to meet gods and reincarnate into different spirit animals. Now, does this mean turn into an animal to get a jetpack? Fuck no, you guys, okay? Like, seriously, and that's one thing I want to address. A lot of people have been, like ever since I started my channel, people have been saying, well, maybe the peyote plants are what are going to trigger everything. Honestly, guys, there's like, it's like a 1 out of 100 chance. You know why? Because, I mean, that means Last Gen just doesn't have this Easter egg at all. Because, I mean, I wouldn't understand that, you know. But the thing is that they also do have, like, references in Last Gen that I will touch on later, that they were already pointing towards peyote, whether we wanted to see it or not. They just added this shit in, possibly because they saw the mods that we implemented when we started turning into different animals and certain things. Now, not to digress too much, I want you to understand something that led me to an understanding. And that is something that Trevor said here. I've finally grown paws. Interesting, very interesting. I've shrunk and I like the smell of ass. Fucking Trevor. Well, at least some things are the same. and he was Trevor, the West Highland Terrier. Now, that was very interesting. I had to read it just to understand something. Now, when I went down here, what was very interesting was the options. One that struck me was the one we just got done saying, and that was the West Highland Terrier. Now, this is a very interesting dog, you guys. Now, one thing I feel is that they call it a West Highland Terrier in the game. Well, not necessarily in the game, but they specify it on the wiki. Now, I feel as though, because, you have to understand, you guys, this specific thing was even added by a person within the community. A lot of these things are. Although they are true facts, I feel as though they do leave certain things out, and those are the things that we are concluding. One thing I feel as though they have left out is the certain aspect of a West Highland Terrier that this specific dog that we turn into is. The West Highland Terrier, okay, is a mix. Well, this one in particular is. As you can see, the dog that you are looking at right in front of you is a West Highland Terrier. The exact same dog that I just showed you within the wiki of GTA. Now, again, I feel as though the wiki is missing out on one small aspect of the terrier. Okay? It is a West Highland Terrier, but a West Highland Terrier mix actually looks exactly the same. So who's to say that this is not the exact dog they're pointing towards? So now that understanding aspects of a certain language and a certain dog can give us clues, I took my research to the next level within this, and I kept going, and I wondered, we have made a lot of references in the mystery about a bird, and, I thought, hey, let's take it a step further. Now, understanding, once again, there are things that we can say are coincidence in life, or we can use them as omens to set us in certain paths, like even numbers as 67, evil and good. Now, that is for the strong-willed within their mind to process things that are spiritual enough to guide them in the right way. For those who do not see it that way, don't fault us for that. But this is what led me to the birds of Malta. Now, what's interesting about the birds of Malta is the national bird of Malta. And what do you know? We have another blue rock. Coincidence? I think not. We are on the right track. Now, what's very interesting about this blue rock thrush, not to delay the other aspects of the Maltese and Malta that we need to understand here, we're just going to briefly understand that it is a correlation, whether we like it or not. Now, not only is it a part of the old world, which is all of the aspects of the philosophers and certain key elements of birds that I've mentioned in Whispy Theories episode 5. Now, aside from that, it is an old world flycatcher. Now, what's very interesting about it being a flycatcher, who do we know within the game that has a fly permanently tattooed on his body? Trevor. Now, not only that, it's very interesting that their plumage, aka feathers often come in blue and gray, and we know gray to assimilate the morning, which can be a good duality of the sun god. They also eat a wide variety of insects and reptiles. We know within the mystery for the Antichrist to come in the form of a reptile, among other things, in addition to berries and seeds. Now, who do we know that juices in the fucking game? Michael. Seeds, I will get into a little later in a different video, possibly episode 2. So once again, I really thought, man, this is the Maltese thing. It can't be a coincidence. So I thought, let's make another connection. And again, you guys, this is my process. So, am I teaching you how to do certain things within the mystery? Yes. I want you guys to learn how to do this even without me. Now, I'm always willing to help, regardless of who goes on and does whatever. I'm here to do what I've always done, and that is bring new light to things that we have never noticed or have stumbled across thousands of times without putting in perspective. Now, there's another thing that is in the mystery and in the history of GTA. Two things that we know to be part of the mystery. And that is movies. So I thought, let's try making a couple more correlations. So, what Maltese actually led me to was something very interesting. It was the Maltese falcon, okay, named after the novel of the same name. Now, not only do we notice the spectrums here, you guys, from red to blue, and even temptation of nature, the peach and redhead. Who do we know in the mystery to love classic movies? Michael. Now, without going into too many things about this movie, because we will get into it a little later on, one thing that's very interesting is the premise of the movie, and I'll explain that in a little while. But for now, just understand that this, even in its own, has two correlations of, so far, Maltese and another bird, which is a falcon. And again, I don't want you to think that I'm going to just briefly sully out too much bullshit that is not relevant. I just want to stick within certain elements of my process and how I actually develop these theories, but a lot of my process I still have not really shown due to aspects of things that I've already found, and I don't want to confuse you with things I've already found. I want you to stay within the learning process because it's how it was found. Now, aside from the aspects of black and white, one thing that is tied to the game of GTA and how Michael, when he solves the murder mystery, what does he get? Black and white filters. Now, for movies, I believed, there's no way. It has to be that, Maltese is really a thing. Let's take it a step further and see if it adds any aspects into religion. And what do you know? Let's see what we can get out of a cross. Now, as you see, a lot of people, once again, could have confused certain aspects of the Templar for the Maltese, and that's probably why we never looked into it. Am I saying that the Templar have nothing to do with it? No. What I'm saying is that we possibly missed out, and that's because of the possibilities that have led from Kiflam all the way into these steps of order. Now, for a little Jesus toast. Now, just to take you through a step-by-step little process of how I actually formulate certain things like Jesus toast, I want you to pay attention to something that has honestly been a part of the San Andreas map ever since the original San Andreas. And it's something very small that a lot of people wouldn't notice, but when it's not even something that's even in LA, so there's no reason for them to redo it every single time. It's almost as if they make a point to keep putting it even when they obviously change the format. Monuments are one thing, but whole freeways and roads have changed, right? But they have managed to put this exact formation of a road inside this fucking game. Now, one thing that's pretty interesting is that Grove Street even has changed. And in a later video, I will show you something very interesting about Grove Street and how it has changed. But for now, let's pay attention to the aspects of the cross, if you don't already see it. It, to some, could have looked like a Templar cross, but to a lot of us who understand the order of a Maltese cross, it looks pretty apparent that it's there. Now, my point is that certain people believe that I just kind of do a bunch of bullshit or something, but I'm really not. I'm taking what's in the game and or what's implied to look at, and I'm just taking formations to segregate. Okay. Now the point is the cross is there in some light. Okay. Even when you cut it out, it's clearly there. Alright. Now I want to show you the point of this, because crosses have a lot to do, not only with religion, but I know this is going to sound very weird, but a flower and piss. Now, for those of you who wondered what I just said, yes, I did say flowers and piss. But I need you to understand certain aspects of this mystery and the flower first. Not only is it tied to all of the things within the game, that is karma, and roses tied to evolution within the unfolding of consciousness. There are certain definitions of a rose that we can take into duality, whether it be death or evolution. But these two together not only coincide, but they are relevant within the mystery. So now that we've seen aspects of a Maltese cross being relevant, it actually took me to a flower. But this flower could be considered a lie within red, depending on how you look at it and your perception. Now, I find it very interesting that it's even within the pink family, and that is the evil aspect of it. But we are to invert these things and realize the truth of seeing. The other names of this flower is the burning love and the Jerusalem cross. Now, even the dusky salmon, a fish, just like Jesus was a fisherman. All of these things tie, but they are to tie us to the next step. Now, to go from flowers to piss is pretty interesting, isn't it? Especially when I put the aspect of Orion. And I know that would have fooled a few people to actually just look up Orion and get kind of lost. Now, the reason I did that is intentional, but that's a mystery. And that is one of the biggest points of the element of me showing you how I do things in this video, because it's how this mystery was put together. And before you start judging me for just appreciating and not solving it, it's not just to appreciate. You are solving, but we need to understand that everything comes with a grain of salt. We need to just take it and then put it in our back pocket until we know when to use it and make a connection. Now, Orion actually has several different births within his different incarnations and different stories. One incarnation of his story and his birth was based on something very interesting. And here it said that the gods Zeus, Hermes, and Poseidon come to visit Helios and Tangeria, who roast a whole bull for them. When they offer him a favor, he asks for the birth of sons. Okay? The gods take the bull's hide and ejaculate or urinate onto it and then bury it into the earth. Now, not to sell you too many things out about that, the fact of the matter is that Herbalist 40 brought this up probably 3 weeks ago, and no one thought to take it to the next level. And it's not about me, it's about people understanding that they have the potential to do it. You have the potential to take any part of what we're saying here and understand certain understandings and possibly figure out things before we even bring it to your attention. A few of you already use this tool, and I appreciate you more than life. But the point is to never give up. The point of giving up is to basically not exist. We're only as existent as we really make ourselves. And this isn't just to boost morale or anything like that. It's for people to understand that this is what the potential of the mystery is to bring. It's to bring a point of knowledge. We're supposed to fucking feed our brain, look things up, figure out life aspects that were right in front of us that we discard. Even things as small as colors. Even when it comes to certain things in the game, you guys, like Tinkle, okay, as a cell phone company, or Whizz, they make a point, okay, for the Whizz company to say, take a whiz. But this is wordplay for taking a piss or taking a picture with whiz. Not to mention that whiz can also be a euphemism for speed. even when we look at certain aspects of urine, we can understand that the Maltese cross is still affected and still within our looking process of the relevancy and connections. The Maltese cross is to be understood, whether we like it or not. Now, what's very interesting about this specific medical condition of the Maltese cross, it shows up in your urine as a defect, but it is an appearance of crystal or crystalloid structures, which is likened in a Maltese cross. Okay. Now, that was very interesting to me because I wondered, crystals. I think it makes perfect sense now why Denise, Franklin's aunt, has crystals all over her house. Now, before we continue to the order, I want something very interesting to be known is that when we segregate and rearrange, we get two of the names that the characters call each other, and that's M and T. Is that a reference to Michael and Trevor? Possibly. Who knows? Maybe not. But I think I have an idea to why that could be a possible answer. But until then, we're going to move on to what matters. Now that certain aspects of Orion and piss are out of the way, I want to make things very clear. All of these things were to be put in order. Not necessarily specifically, but an order. And that's how we figured out things. Period. And it's no different than the mystery. They scatter different shit around for certain people to find certain things. Because so many people playing one game, of course, one big community is going to find one Easter egg. But that's why they obscured a lot of this shit. For the last is an order. And it is not only the order that we have found, but it is the order of the Malta. One thing that's pretty interesting already is their emblem. And if you haven't noticed already, when you catch the arrow, you notice that it looks a lot like the Arcadius building. Very, very interesting. Now, for now, I'm going to just say that the Order of the Malta is very interesting. And I'm going to leave it up to you guys if you want to look up things about it. Because there are answers right in front of your face, whether you like it or not.